Kia ora, my name is Joe Harawira. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Three Māori Boys, and we make and market Waimanuka, New Zealand's premium non-alcoholic beverage that infuses Manuka honey with lemon juice and sparkling water. I've known Lance pretty much my whole life. We were sort of born a week apart in the same ward, and we went to the same primary school, and our dads worked together at the local board mills there. Wayne came onto the scene at high school. We all grew up together and we all hung out together. We just really love being around each other. We love each other's company. We have this mantra where we respect each other and we uphold each other's mana. It feels like we're more married now than friends. So the catalyst moment for Waimanuka, and like all great business stories, happened at a New Year's Eve party, 2019 going into 2020. So I'm sitting around the barbecue with a whole group of friends, and both Lance and Wayne are there. I don't drink alcohol, so that particular night I was consuming pineapple kombucha. I remember pouring it into a glass and then trying it and then saying something along the lines of, "This tastes nothing like pineapple." Initially everyone laughed, including the boys, but then we started throwing around ideas as to, if we were going to take a premium non-alcoholic beverage to social occasions, events or celebrations, what would it be? So by 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd landed on combining Manuka honey from Bay of Plenty, because we knew a beekeeper, with spring water from Gisborne, and we were going to call it the healing water of Aotearoa. Fortunately, New Zealand's relatively small, so it was quite easy to connect in with the right people. So we approached, for example, the Food Innovation Network, and through them we managed to secure a relationship with a beverage consultant. She made 2 versions of Waimanuka, and then she said, "I think I know which one you're going to like, but I want you to try them both to see." So we tried the first one. We said, right, that's it. We like that one. So we selected the first one without even trying the second one. We know the product tastes great. We have the branding to support kind of telling the story. And then we have the story, 3 mates with no background in beverage making coming together to make this drink. One of the things that we love about the story of Waimanuka and the journey of the business is that it is so kind of community interconnected. No matter where in the world you are and you see Waimanuka in a high-end restaurant or a hotel or a cafe, straight away you feel a connection to New Zealand. You want a piece of that because that's your own little piece of the country. First of all, we have no added sugar or colours in the beverage, and that was really important to us because we wanted to keep it as close to the natural source as possible. The honey comes from our hometown of Whakatane, from a guy we used to go to school with, so one of our old schoolmates. The lemon juice comes from a family in Hawke's Bay, and then the water and where it's bottled, that all happens in Tauranga. So it's a whole kind of coastal area sort of coming together to create this beverage. The thing that really did it for us in terms of taking us to that next level when we launched into market with America's Cup was doing a segment on a TV New Zealand sort of news program called 7 Sharp. And what they did was they wanted to share this story of 3 Māori boys who come up with this beverage, and none of them had a background in beverage making, and all of a sudden they're supplying America's Cup. In 2020, it was one of the highest viewed stories on TV for that year, and we were like, what is it? Like, we're just a bunch of boys having fun. Air New Zealand have featured us in the Kia Ora magazine 3 times in 1 year, which is pretty exciting. And then we also got nominated for a couple of business awards. So we won the Bay of Plenty Horizon Energy Group People's Choice Award for 2021, and we were also a finalist in the Wellington Gold Awards. And then off the back of that, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. So there are government agencies that help New Zealand businesses to go global. They invested in a TV documentary of the story of 3 Māori boys going global. And the whole reason for that was to hopefully inspire everyday Kiwis to follow their business goals and to start exporting. So the values and principles of the brand are ones that sort of pertain to us personally. The first one is hauoratanga, which stands for wellness or well-being. The second one is whanaungatanga, which is about relationships. So we will always value relationships before doing business. Manaakitanga, that's about giving back and supporting each other and our communities. And then the final one is kaitiakitanga, which is about sustainability and doing what we can to care for the land. So we're really fortunate to connect with Cuts Maihi, who's a local Māori creative artist back in Whakatane, our hometown. And he created our own sort of Māori motif that really speaks to kind of the nature's role in producing sort of Waimanuka, and in particular pays homage to the bees. The Māori term for it is he nuna te taiao, which means basically the creative processes used to produce Waimanuka. Really pops in terms of branding when you see it up on a shelf in a store, because that Māori motif, it stands out. We were able to create this sort of brand and packaging that's resonated with everyone who's tried Waimanuka. Our understanding of all things IP at the start of going into business was very much at that beginner level, and it's not too far from that at the moment. We're learning things every day, and this entire process has been a learning experience as well. So we've trademarked the design, like on the bottle and the packaging. We have a Māori motif, and each of the curves and each of the patterns tells a unique story about Waimanuka. Being able to protect that, I think, is a really important aspect of the trademark. We were fortunate to start our journey relatively early, like we hadn't entered the market just then. We were able to work through the right documentation. Lots of people want to come on board as mentors, and it's been great because New Zealand is so small and everyone is connected. We were talking to another mentor about kind of what our aspirations were and where we were on the business journey, and then they mentioned that protecting yourself through a trademark would be the next step. So we began that journey in June 2020, and we were able to trademark the Māori motif that's wrapped around the neck label and the base label by the end of that year. So it took sort of 4 or 5 months going through the entire process, but coming out the other side, we absolutely recognise how important that is. That basically sets us up in terms of protecting the brand. It's a really great communication tool as well with the customers, because it really speaks to kind of our attributes, our values, which is an extension kind of the brand, because a big part of the story is having that emotional connection. So being able to protect that, I think, is a really important aspect of the trademark. New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, again, we're really supportive in this area. And through them, we managed to connect with a whole heap of sort of business experts. And from that group of experts, we've actually been able to distill that down into an advisory board who we meet with every month. And these people are amazing. They're the best in their field at what they do, and they provide us with advice and insights on some of the more sort of strategic decisions that we should be making. So they've been right across us from the first time we met, sort of middle of last year, around kind of you're protecting your IP and what are you guys doing now sort of a thing, and what's happening in the future. We had some laboratory studies done last year on the health benefits of Waimanuka, and just because we had such a great relationship with the IP lawyers, we reached out to them and said, do we need anything for this? Is there some sort of patent? And they came back to us and said, don't communicate the benefits just yet, because if you do communicate them, then you're unlikely to be able to patent them. We didn't know that. The advice we'd pass on to other businesses on their journey around sort of intellectual properties, you have to be able to adapt to be able to sort of meet the requirements, because it is kind of at times a complex process to go through, but it's totally worthwhile. So the timing and the opportunities that exist in the non-alcoholic beverage kind of category are really exciting at the moment. Not only is there a huge amount of growth around the world, but also locally. Earlier this year there was a report come out from the New Zealand breweries that they've seen a 1,116% increase in the consumption of non-alcoholic beer over the last 5 years. So in terms of timing, we probably couldn't have picked a better time in the market to enter it. Would you like to try some?
That's a perfect match.
I feel like laughing every time I do it.
Well done, everybody.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.